Good morning. It is Tuesday, August 11th, the Feast of St. Clair of Assisi, and you're listening to Red Sea Roundup. And since it's the second Tuesday of the month, I'm your host today, Gene Wilhelm. Later today, we'll be talking with Father Charlie Banks about spiritual direction. Our phone number, if you would like to have a conversation with Father Charlie when that happens, is 85 Love Red Sea. That is 856837332. There's quite a bit going on right now as a lot of people are getting ready for school. I know I have 5 of my 10 grandchildren are entering a new school this year, 1 in college, 3 in high school in 2 different districts, and 1 that's entering into kindergarten in a 3rd district. And Dennis, I'm sure that you've got a lot going on too.
Good morning, Gene. Yes, the summer has been very busy as we had expected, and it is coming to a final close with a grand heat shebang. So we're all staying sheltered indoors as much as we can because of the heat. But yeah, we've got a lot of things going on with summer band and preparations for entry into college for one. And so, yeah, it's been a busy summer.
So it's a great time to be praying for all the children that are going back to school, especially those that are entering a new educational environment. And I would ask you also to pray for the students coming to Texas A&M and Blinn College. There are, 17,000 people who put that they are Roman Catholic on their entrance cards, and of those, St. Mary's probably is only able to service about 5,000. So we have a big prayer burden there as well.
Well, able is one word, but actually those that come and show up. So that's a good number, but we want to shoot for the 100% of those students that say they're Catholic. We want them to attend. So be faithful Catholics.
Yes, they are unreached, and let's pray that they are reachable this year.
Let's have them listen to Red Sea Catholic Radio.
That'd be a good idea. And Dennis, you've got something that you're working on in the background as well that is, several weeks away?
Yeah, if you were able to listen to this previous hour of our broadcast, we had Steve Ray on through Relevant Radio. He was interviewing with the Morning Air crew. We have Steve Ray coming back for our annual benefit dinner. We're very excited because if you've been able to listen to Steve before, you know he's a very dynamic speaker. He has much experience all over the world. He's just a wonderful person altogether, and he's coming back to our benefit dinner on October 15th. That's a Thursday evening, and so tickets are available now. Reservations for tables and individual tickets are available on our website at redsearadio.org/benefit. You can reserve and pay for your tickets right there on our site, and we're ready to go. It's no longer a save-the-date event. Save the date and reserve your spot because it will sell out. It was a sellout our previous 3 years, and we've increased the venue size, and we're actually going to increase the number of seats this year again. So
where is it going to be this year, Dennis?
We're going to be at St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Church in their Parish Activity Center. So we're looking to have about 410 people there. So it's going to be a very full venue. Our theme is Viva il Papa, and we're going to be talking about the papacy. Steve Ray specifically will talk about his presentation, Peter, the Rock, Keys, and Chair. So he's going to talk about the papacy from the very beginning to all the way to now, and its ups, downs, its consistency through the years. And so it's a wonderful thing that we have, and the authority in our church has remained constant from one man to the next, one individual through the grace of the Holy Spirit. Steve Ray is going to be talking about that. We're going to have a wonderful Italian dinner and wine, and we're just going to have a great time. It's a really fun event each year. And Gene, you were the MC for it last year, and it went very smoothly. So
went in spite of me.
Yeah, we might be talking to you in spite of you again. I'll talk to you after the show, but it's a great event every year. Sells out, and it honestly is our biggest fundraising event for the year. It gets people to really pay attention to what's going on here in the radio. We've actually had people coming from San Antonio, from the Houston area, and Dallas Fort Worth to our benefit dinners to come hear our speakers talk, and we've had people that have been very generous from all around our state to give to our radio. And so that's our big event each year. If you want to support Red Sea Catholic Radio, we'd love for you to do that then. You can always do it now if you go to redsearadio.org/donate. You can always do that now, but we're really hoping to fill up and have a wonderful full crowd for Steve Ray on October 15th. Once again, redsearadio.org is our website. If you go to the click on Steve Ray's picture, as a matter of fact, you'll go to where you can make reservations, find out all about Steve Ray, even hear sound bites of many of his talks, and get a taste of what you have to come by coming to visit Steve Ray at our benefit dinner October 15th.
Yes, and going to our website, too, and going to, I believe it's the resources tab, you can get to the church bulletins.
You can.
Church websites and their bulletins, and that's where you can get more details on some of the things I'm going to be talking about here in the next few minutes.
Why don't we do that now?
Okay. We were talking a little bit earlier about school beginning, and that is always a time when we have an opportunity to follow Jesus' command that we be his disciples and preach the gospel always and everywhere, even to the ends of the earth. But we don't have to go that far to do that during the school year, do we, Dennis?
No, our kids can do that right there at the schoolhouse, and so can we.
And there are a couple of opportunities that are coming up. Most of the parishes will be beginning an RCIA program, which is the Religious Initiation...
Rite of Christian Initiation of Adults. I always said for adults, and I got corrected by...
And so those of you who know somebody who is interested in the Catholic Church, or you want to learn something about the Catholic Church yourself, or you would like to help others to learn about the Catholic Church, you will have that opportunity. And most of the parishes are looking for volunteers to help with this activity. The other big place where you can help is in the religious education program for the youth. If you look at the bulletin, several of the local parishes are looking for people to help with that. And you say, I'm not a teacher, that's okay. Some of them are looking for somebody that just helps out in other ways.
I don't know of one parish that would turn away help when you say, I would like to help with the religious education program.
I know. I mean, it except maybe St. Mary, since they don't have any young children here to speak of. And tied in with that is that this diocese, we are very blessed to be here, and that our bishops have some time ago made it a rule that those who minister go through an ethics and integrity in ministry class and have their certification current. And I think I talked about this last month when I was on. There are still 2 opportunities to do that if you've never done that before, and 2 opportunities to do that if you have done it 3 years ago or more and need to refresh and renew your certification. The first of those for the basic class is at St. Joseph's Catholic Church, and that's October. I'm way ahead of myself. August 14th, and that's from 9 to noon at St. Joseph's. And then Saturday, August 29th, from 9 to noon at St. Thomas Aquinas in College Station. The refresher classes are going to be given Thursday, August 13th from 10:35 to 11:45 at St. Joseph Catholic Church in Bryan, and Thursday, September 3rd from 7 to 8:15 at St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Church. Most of the bulletins will have that information in it as well. There's another thing for the beginning of school that's coming up that our friend Matt Rice is going to be doing over at St. Thomas's or St. Joseph's.
St. Joseph's Christ the Good Shepherd Chapel?
Yes, over on Coulter. And it's called Encounter, and it's an opportunity to kick off the school year. And that's August 22nd, and that's from 7 to 9 p.m. The night will feature a short talk by Taylor Scroll, with whom I'm not familiar, plus praise and worship with Josh Calhoun and Loretta Keeler, and an opportunity to come face-to-face with Jesus in adoration of the Blessed Sacrament. All are welcome, and the doors will be open at 6:30.
That's an incredible trio. Deborah Borski also is going to be singing with them, and they are just an incredibly talented trio of individuals to hear. So everyone is welcome, all families, not just Aggie students, not just Blinn students. We're talking high school, elementary school. It's appropriate for all ages. It's a wonderful, wonderful time. So Encounter on August 22nd.
And there's something that's coming up this evening at St. Joseph's Catholic Church also. The Women's Guild there, it will be hosting the Bryan College Station Deanery of Council of Catholic Women, their quarterly meeting. It will be in the Parish Activity Center, and it will begin at 10 a.m. So get your makeup on and get hopping in the car so that you can and listen to us on the way over there this morning. Again, on the 26th, or the 26th Annual Rural Life Mass will be celebrated August 20th at 6 p.m. at St. Anne Catholic Parish in Somerville. Bishop Joe Vasquez will be celebrating Mass, which is sponsored by the Austin Diocesan Council of Catholic Women. The church recognizes the hard work of our farmers and ranchers and gives thanks for a good harvest. Dinner will be served after the Mass. And there's another opportunity here that if you're willing to travel a little bit and you're really looking for healing in one way or another, the Charismatic Renewal of the Diocese is celebrating a healing Mass with praise and worship on Friday, August 21st, 2015 at 7 p.m., followed by a Mass with a healing service. So it's there, and that is going to be at Holy Cross Catholic Church. That's 1610 East 11th Street in Austin. I know that's a little bit of a drive, but it will really be worth your while to go there if you're in need of some kind of healing. And then there are a number of retreats. There is an upcoming Men's Acts Retreat at St. Thomas Aquinas, and this takes place from August the 20th to the 23rd. It starts on Thursday evening and ends at the 11 o'clock Mass on August the 23rd. I spoke with Jim Prohaska last night. There's still some openings, but the registration will end on August the 17th. This is an excellent opportunity to be with other men, and it is a lay-driven retreat. And this is, third or fourth men's retreat that they've had there, right, Dennis?
I heard they're very powerful. I haven't been able to make it on an Acts retreat here in town yet, but I know that the team that they've got involved in the leadership of that is just one heck of a great group of men.
And Jim told me some of the men that will be there, and I know them personally, and I know that I'm going to have a good time if I go. For more information on that, you can contact Jim Prohaska, and his phone number is 979-450-1615, or you can email him at jim@jnmtechnologies.com. Of course, you can always call the St. Thomas Aquinas office for more information as well. Another retreat that's coming up, and there are a couple of these, and these are a little bit ways off, but you might want to put them on your calendar. If there's a Cursillo going on, which is a 3-day course in Christianity, and that is the women's retreat will be on October 1st to the 4th, 2015. The men's will be November the 12th through the 15th. If you have questions, you can call Robin Spencer, the lay director, at 254-220-3883, and I'm not sure where that's going to be. Or you can look at the website itself, Austin English Cursillo, and that's CURSILLO.webs.com. Another one that's coming up for married couples is there is a marriage encounter that's coming up, and I don't have a date. There's one in September and one in November. Don't know any more than that. You can go to austinme.org for more information, or you can call 512-522-8409. I've not been on a marriage encounter. I've been on a number of other retreats. For those of you that are looking for something to do also, there is still a group that leaves St. Mary's at 5 o'clock every Monday to go to the Twin City Mission to provide a meal and a Bible study. For more information on that, you can contact Justin Kroger, that's Kroeger, at sbcglobal.net. They return about 7 o'clock, and transportation is provided from St. Mary's. One more thing here is if you have an opportunity, or you're looking for an opportunity where you can work in a Catholic environment, if you check the St. Thomas Bulletin, there are several positions that they have open right now. I don't remember what they all. I know there are at least 3. So if you're looking for something like that and you're looking for work, then check with their bulletin and find out what positions they are and what the qualifications are.
We also have an opening with the Good Samaritan Gabriel Project Life Center here in town. If you go to our Austin Diocese website, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you can find some information. I believe it's along the blue ribbon there on the bottom. We are running a spot through the rest of this week, advertising for an opening, and can't quite remember what that spot's open. I want to say it's working with their Good Samaritan Gabriel Project Life Center, but it's here in town for sure. So that's another job opening that's available.
And Catholic Charities of Central Texas is having a golf tournament here in the Brazos Valley on Friday, September 18th. All proceeds go directly to helping families here in the Brazos Valley. For more information, you can visit their website, ccctx.org/golf, or call 979-822-9340. There's lots of information there on that.
Yeah, you want to sign up for these things quickly because, as you know, the rest of the summer is going to go by in a blink. And I'm thinking, oh, September, that's a long time away, but that actually isn't that far away, is it?
No, it really isn't. And Dennis, I'm going to put in a plug for you that you have on spots several times on the radio that you're still looking for volunteers to help in various capacities here at Red Sea Radio.
Sure, we are. We always can take volunteers, and I'm glad to train anyone. There is no experience necessary. We can even train someone like Gene to run the boards.
Well, but first you have to train my tongue to be able to talk.
Gene's done such an awesome job with us as a volunteer. All our show hosts for Red Sea Radio are volunteers, and they're doing a wonderful job. And so as we get used to going from one host to 4 hosts, you can understand and get a taste of what they do a little bit as a volunteer here. But if you have any specialty in electronics, if you know how to stamp an envelope, we could even use you here. So the more volunteers, the merrier. We're going to need people for setup and planning for our benefit dinner. Lots of volunteers are always needed and always welcome.
Yes, and a lot of it's fun. Sometimes if you're looking for a challenge, you don't have to work a crossword puzzle. Sometimes there are things here at Red Sea Radio that are challenging.
Yeah, indeed. But it's a good challenge. And so one thing that we involve volunteers for is not just about getting things done, but as a volunteer, it's our prayer that you also receive something in return, and knowing that you share in the mission and the ministry of Red Sea Catholic Radio, being able to reach others' lives here in our Brazos Valley. So got some great volunteers here, and we always are welcome to have more. If you have any, we're running a spot for our social media ministry. And so if you have any experience whatsoever in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I'm not that good at it. So we'd love to have some more people in our social media outreach team. So definitely could use some more volunteers in that area.
And what people may not realize is that this is a Catholic radio station, and in these support functions, you are actually working with evangelization, because there are a lot of people who are not Catholic that listen to the radio station.
Yes, even when you're helping with the filing, we've had one of our volunteers. If you've ever been to the studio, you'll notice that the walls are actually carpeted.
Well, that's so I don't hurt myself when I bang my head against the walls.
Well, we've got Gene's straitjacket hanging in the corner too. So, but we've had volunteers help us volunteer by vacuuming the walls, as a matter of fact. Yes. So, any ways that we can serve the Lord and work together as a team, you're always welcome here at Red Sea Radio. So if you want to find out more, you can go to our website at redcradio.org. That's REDC Radio. It kind of looks like Red Radio. And if you go to our homepage, which I'm clicking on right now as I speak, there is a volunteer button at the top right. And you can actually list your name and information, and we will contact you back and schedule time to meet with you and talk about what your gifts are, and I'll share a little history about the radio and give you a tour. How's that?
That sounds good to me. Where do I sign up?
redcradio.org and volunteer. You're just messing with me now, Gene. You're here. You've already signed up.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, I've got some volunteer duties. If you got some time a little bit later on this week, I've got some, I might ask some of you to write spots for us or even record spots. And if you don't like to get in front of the mic, then that's okay too. There's lots of behind the scenes work to be done.
Every time I get over here behind the mic, Dennis brings out the mustard because I'm such a ham.
Oh no, I don't like mustard. I like my ham plain. So, I like my ham bald.
Well, you got it.
I know. No, it's been great. Gene's a wonderful volunteer for us, and we love making announcements of everything that's going on in our community. I will make announcements in the future, but Red Sea Radio is growing. God's got plans for us, even though it might be a little bit slower than what I want sometimes. We are growing. There are signs that things are coming up out of the woodwork, that our network will be expanding here in the next few years, as a matter of fact. So our facilities will be growing. So there are great things to come for Red Sea Radio. So we always look forward to your volunteering.
If you look at the last half of the last verse in Isaiah 60 in the Jerusalem Bible, it is translated, "In due time, I will act with speed." So it's about time for a break now, and we will have Father Charlie Banks with us.
Father Charlie's coming.
Okay, we're back, and I'm Gene Wilhelm, your host today on Red Sea Roundup, and we have on the line with us now Father Charlie Banks from San Antonio. Father Charlie is an OMI, and Father Charlie, what is an OMI?
Well, first of all, good morning. We're the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate, and I think, that title really explains who we are. Because by the gift of God's faith and grace, we as priests and brothers and bishops respond to a call to follow Jesus. And oblate basically means a gift of ourself. We offer our lives for the sake of the gospel and preaching Christ. We're missionaries. We're in 60 countries around the world. We have to be ready, to be sent out. We have to be available to serve not just, say, the local church, but the universal church. And then Mary Immaculate basically means that we pray every day for the protection of Mary, and we ask her to keep us close to her son, Jesus. Our founder said that, Mary is to be our spiritual mother, and we ask her always to keep us close to Jesus and focused on him. So basically, that's who we are, and I think that sort of summarizes our spirituality.
You talked about bishops earlier. There are a couple of men, one of whom recently died, who the people in this area would know as a bishop or a cardinal that were oblates.
Yes. Francis Cardinal George of Chicago. And in reality, worldwide we have 48 members of the oblates who are in the episcopacy. We have one cardinal, about 5 or 6 archbishops, and then the rest are bishops. So about 40 or so bishops around the world. And
Bishop Pfeiffer who was in San Angelo is an oblate.
Right, Bishop Michael Pfeiffer he is the Bishop Emeritus of San Angelo. He was the bishop before Bishop Michael Sis. The other bishop that we have, or archbishop in the U.S., is Roger Schweitz, who's the Archbishop of Anchorage, Alaska. Oh. And certainly I think that part of the world is considered missionary.
Yes, it is. Now, Father Charlie, you've been a priest for a number of years, and would you tell us a little bit about how you came to the priesthood and a little bit about your history as an oblate?
Okay. Well, I grew up in a rural area, farming community in northern Illinois, and went to a two-room Catholic school. We had a wonderful pastor, and I think he's the one who really, inspired me to be a priest. I also, of course, had good family life. Our Catholic faith was basically, I think, transmitted to our family by my paternal grandmother. My mother was not a Catholic until later on in life. But after high school, I decided to pursue the priesthood. I felt the call to work with the poor, so I came to San Antonio, entered the seminary, and then in 1960 made my first profession. And I was ordained in 1966, which means that next year, God willing, I'll celebrate my 50th anniversary of priesthood.
And you do a lot of traveling for someone who's been a priest for 50 years.
I do. I was vocation director for the past 10 years, and in fact, I gave up that ministry just a few weeks ago, actually on the 15th of July. When I was doing vocation work, I was all over Texas and Louisiana, and then I was also taking a couple of yearly trips to our seminaries up in the state of New York. But now I've been able to hand it over to a younger priest, and I can focus now basically on my ministry here in San Antonio and then going up to Texas A&M at St. Mary's every week.
And one of the trips that you got to take, a year or so ago, as a part of that ministry as vocation director was to Rome and to Germany, was it not?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct. And that was a wonderful experience because, like I said before, we're in 60 countries around the world, and when I went to Germany, I didn't know anyone, but they met me at the airport, and I had a signed OMI that I held in my hand. They came up to me, and we were like, brothers right off, and we drove a couple hours on the Autobahn to southeastern Germany, to the state of Hessen, to our seminary in a small German community called Hunfeld, not too far from the place where St. Boniface, the apostle of Germany, is buried. That is in the cathedral in Fulda.
Yes.
And we had a wonderful visit there and just felt much at home.
Now, the people that are here are more familiar with you as a spiritual director. You make the trip from San Antonio at least once a week to come here to Bryan College Station to do spiritual direction. Is that not right?
That's correct. Spiritual direction and then confessions and the Mass on usually every Monday.
And so basically you're the priest in residence on Mondays here.
That's right, because Monday is the day that Father David and the other priests have free.
But St. Mary's here in College Station isn't the only place where you do this ministry of spiritual direction in a college environment, is it?
No, it's not. I do it every other week during the school year at Texas State in San Marcos, where Father Will Stratton is now the pastor of Our Lady of Wisdom University Catholic Parish. And, of course, he was at St. Mary's in College Station before going to San Marcos. But I also do some spiritual direction locally for students at San Antonio College and at the University of Texas, San Antonio.
So that must keep you fairly busy.
It does. And then here in San Antonio, my new ministry that I just started recently is to be the religious superior of our retirement community. And there are about 27 or 28 oblates who live here at what's called Oblate Madonna residence. So
you have both extremes of the spectrum of people that you're ministering to right now, age-wise.
That's right. And I have, you might say, the wealth of the wisdom of our older members who have been, priests and brothers for many, many years. Most of them here are in their 80s and their 90s. And then at the other end of the spectrum, I have all the wonderful faith and the zeal and the energy of the younger people.
Okay, Father Charlie, what exactly is spiritual direction? I mean, a lot of people may have some preconceived notion of what it is, and probably it's not completely true, is it?
No, I think basically a spiritual director is someone who tries to accompany someone on their own spiritual journey. And a spiritual director, listens to the person, what they might be facing at a particular time in their spiritual journey. It could be some struggles, or it could be dryness in prayer. It could be some other issues that they're dealing with. And basically the spiritual director will try, after praying to the Holy Spirit, just to kind of give them some direction, maybe some hints that will help them, to keep moving forward.
And every now and then it's a spiritual kick in the pants, isn't it?
Not too often, but sometimes a little push.
And so you're talking about somebody that's accompanying someone through their spiritual journey. I believe you also talk to a lot of people who are trying to discern whether they have a vocation or not. Is that not correct?
Right. And, of course, I think, we look at the 4 paths that lead to heaven, because every vocation, I think, is a call from God to get to heaven. And it could be for the single life or a married life, consecrated life, or priesthood. And it's a matter of trying to figure out, okay, where is God calling me, and where will I find my peace and my fulfillment and my purpose in this world, so that I can help establish the kingdom of God, and then bring other people to Christ, and then eventually all together to go to see the fullness of God in heaven.
Speaking of consecrated life, this is the year of consecrated life, and one of the forms of consecrated life that I'm aware of that I don't hear very often is the role of consecrated virgin, that you're not in a religious order, you're not a priest, you're not married, and will never get married, and so are there people that talk to you about that as well?
Every now and then. It's not too common because a lot of people don't know about it, but I think it is becoming more and more common, especially in maybe the past 10 years. And it's a wonderful way of life for somebody who doesn't feel called, to be religious in a community, but they want to some way dedicate their life following Jesus, who is poor, chaste, and obedient, and work in the world and bring, say the light and the love of the gospel and of Christ, to say the secular society, which I think certainly today needs the gift of faith.
Well, now, spiritual direction, some people might think that if I come to you for spiritual direction, you're going to tell me what I need to do, but that's not really the case, is it?
No, you might give some hints or some suggestions, but it's up to the person to respond to say where God's calling them. And it's not just something cut and dried. Yeah, like I said, there are some suggestions because, for example, if we're going to be in spiritual direction, we need to pray every day. That's a given.
Okay. And I imagine you have some people with you that are under your direction that take more prayer than others.
And that's correct. And I think sometimes with younger people, you have to encourage them to really and truly to develop the habit of prayer, because otherwise we're not going to have that loving faith relationship with the Lord.
Okay, and so and with the young people, a lot of them that you minister to here and at in San Marcos, I'm sure that a lot of them are trying to discern what their next step is after they get out of wherever they are, and
Exactly.
are maybe feeling that they want to get married, but somehow have gotten the impression that that's a second-rate vocation.
And that's unfortunate, but marriage is it's a wonderful vocation, and it's not necessarily true that, say, priests or consecrated religious are higher. I think we're all called to heaven, and I mean there are many holy, saintly married people who leave a great impact on the world, the culture, but also on their families, just passing on the faith. So I have great admiration for people who are striving for holiness in the context of marriage.
Well,
it's a matter of trying to find a good partner. If that's one's call, somebody will help you to grow in holiness.
I think one of the better examples of a married couple that did that are Saint Therese of Lisieux's parents. I think they both at one time thought they had a vocation to the priesthood or religious life, and were married, and they achieved marvelous things in their children and through their children.
That's correct. And in fact, they're going to be canonized, I believe, sometime this year. I believe during the session of the Synod on the Family.
That'd be great. And there's a lot being written about them this year because of that canonization, as I recall. And they did not it was not an easy life for them in what they did.
Because they had a lot of sickness in their family and just a lot of, turmoil like a lot of modern day families have. But they were so faithful to God and faithful to prayer, and I think that's what basically helped them, to grow in holiness and to keep close to God.
Now, sometimes I would assume that when you're doing spiritual direction, every now and then you almost feel like a psychologist who's also working with people. Is that not right?
Sometimes, yeah, you may feel like that, but then I think you have to remind yourself in all humility that you don't have a degree in psychology. So you basically I think you try to share just good common sense when it comes to advice. If people want some advice,
yes.
Or sometimes you have to basically refer people to a professional to get maybe some psychological help or whatever it might be.
So there is a distinction between spiritual direction and the psychological help. And so
definitely.
Where do you think they work together or should work together? But where's the divide come?
I think basically in the element of faith. But for example, if the spiritual director, listens and realizes there's something deeper here, I think, the spiritual director should just advise a person, try to get some professional help and then direct them toward a Catholic, counselor or psychologist who can give them good, solid advice.
And sometimes that's...
And then I think that will dovetail with spiritual direction.
Sometimes it's difficult to find a good Catholic psychologist that...
That's right, and I think sometimes you have to go to a bigger city like Houston or, Dallas or San Antonio to find someone who's going to give you, good, solid advice and not lead to something that is, contrary, say, to the gospel or what the church teaches.
What would somebody do that was saying, well, I don't know whether I need spiritual direction or not? How do I know whether I need some spiritual direction? And do I need to do it every week, every month, or once a year, or whatever?
I think it depends upon the person, and sometimes people will come and they will, talk about their spiritual life. You listen, and you maybe just give them a few little hints, and then you may never see them again, or they may come back in 3 months or 4 months or 6 months, but they're satisfied with that. Others like to go more frequently, especially I think younger people and religious and priests who are really and truly trying to keep themselves focused on the Lord and their movement toward the Lord in the midst of all the busyness of life.
Yes, and that's interesting because so what you're saying is it's up to the individual and where they are,
Exactly.
and so what then happens after somebody's been to you a time or two? Do you tell them that they help them to find what it is that they're trying to discern, and then they invite them to come back, or do you ever tell somebody, well, I think that you need to come back and see me in a week or a month?
Well, generally, I'll invite them. I say, if you think this is helpful, and if you think the Holy Spirit is, directing you, you're welcome to come back, again. But I don't try to make it so that they become dependent upon me, because that's the last thing I want to do, to create dependencies. I like to sort of be there, kind of like an animator or somebody who encourages the people, to keep focused on the Lord and to keep moving forward, in that relationship with Him.
That's very good, Father Charlie, because the Gospels tell us that God is the only one that we should be dependent upon. And when we start putting our dependence in men, we're going to be disappointed at one time or another.
That's right. I guess one thing that I try to do, I'm not bragging, I try to always, keep people, including myself, keep focus on the Lord in the midst of all the distractions of today's world. You see, focus on the Lord, and if we focus on Him, He'll call us, and I think with the love in our heart, we'll respond, and we'll keep moving forward, even though we're struggling with, say, a lot of human issues.
Okay. Our listeners, if you would like to ask Father Charlie a question or just get some general information, give us a call at 85-LOVE-RED-C. That's 855-683-7332. And we'd be happy to put you on the air so that you could ask your question and Father Charlie could respond. Father Charlie, what happens with people that really want to follow the Lord and have some particular things in their lives that they're struggling with that are stumbling blocks to following Him? How do you deal with that?
Well, I think when we read the lives of the saints, we find out that, many of them had either demons they had to deal with or they had struggles, but they persevered. They were faithful, and I think that's the most important thing, just to try to be people of fidelity every day, because we don't know when our journey is going to end in this world. But if we just keep trying to be faithful despite a lot of falls and getting up, falling, getting up, I think that whenever God does call us, He's going to welcome us with open arms, because we did our best, humanly speaking, with whatever other problems we had to face.
Now,
I think the whole thing about fidelity.
Now, in this diocese, there are a number of lay spiritual directors, and I think it's great that this diocese requires them to go through, I think it's 3 years of training to be able to be declared a spiritual director in this diocese. What's different between having, say, a priest as a spiritual director and a lay person, or do you really know that or able to address that?
I mean, there are a lot of wonderful lay spiritual directors, and I think perhaps a priest or a sister or brother, because they're, you say, full-time in their commitment, they may have just a little bit more experience from having done spiritual direction or having time to study. But there are a lot of wonderful holy Catholic lay people who have great wisdom, and they can encourage one another and give insights. I think, for example, sometimes you might have two good ladies who are friends, and they get together for coffee in the morning, and they talk about what's going on in their spiritual life or their family or their neighborhood. And I think, in a sense, that's like a type of spiritual direction. They help and encourage one another.
So you're saying,
all from the point of faith.
So you're saying that each of us, if we are being Jesus' disciples, have opportunities every day to provide spiritual direction for others.
I think so. Depending upon how you define spiritual direction, but I think just to encourage one another, to keep close to Jesus, to live the gospel, and keep struggling and not giving up.
Well, if we're going to do that means that our relationship with Jesus needs to be such that we are pretty secure in that relationship and aren't looking to change the other person to meet our needs or desires. Is that not right?
Exactly. Basically, to encourage the person, to do his or her best in responding to the Lord's call. And I think we all know that in many of our communities and parishes, we have wonderful, faith-filled people who have had lots of struggles in their marriages, in their families, with sickness and in unemployment, all kinds of challenges, but they've been faithful, and they almost, I think they radiate holiness and goodness.
Well, and that's a strange term for a lot of us. We hear that we're supposed to be holy, for God is holy, and a lot of people, myself included, just can't see myself sitting there or kneeling somewhere with my hands folded perfectly right and having this beatific grin on my face. Is that holiness? Oh, you know me well enough to know that I would never have a beatific grin on my face.
I think it depends upon how we define holiness, and I think holiness is basically, trying to allow ourselves to be open, to be, filled with the goodness and the love of Christ, and just let Him, speak to us through our actions, and at the same time, to be who we are, to smile, to try to be friendly, to be helpful, not to be focused on ourselves, but on the Lord and other people. I think that's how holiness. It's about, integrity. It's about just, being the people that God is calling us to be.
Well, and as a matter of fact, the justified, sanctified, holiness, sometimes some Bible translations translate that as integrity, which is really being whole and holy who God created us to be. That's
right. And I think, for example, we look at the lives of the saints. Many of them were just people of great integrity. And in other words, how they acted and how they spoke and, their behavior, it all reflected what was going on inside them. Mm-hmm. Just, integrity.
One of the people, one of the blesseds that always encourages me is Pier Giorgio Frasetti, I believe it is. And he was just a young man that was just a student and just being a normal young man. And he had a tremendous impact on a lot of people. And so it's how he lived his everyday life that made him holy.
Exactly. And just basically, trying to keep close to the Lord and let His love and His light, kind of just shine out of us. And again, that whole thing about, integrity, striving, to be our best, cooperating with God's grace and being, His presence in the world of today.
And if you read his life, you will find out that his family knew absolutely nothing about this life of holiness that he was living. And when he died, there were thousands that lined the streets of Milan to get a view of his body as he was being carried to his final resting place.
No, and that's correct. And it doesn't have to be something spectacular. It's not a matter of, beating drums or blowing trumpets, but I think just basically trying to be Christ, as men and women trying to be Christ in the world.
Well, that makes it sound so simple. I'd rather have something spectacular where everybody knew I was holy.
Well, but Jesus also speaks about humility.
Oh, well, I guess I'll have to work on that.
Which I think we all need. We all need to keep working on humility because in our culture today, we're just kind of bombarded with the idea of, being number one and being on top of the mountain and always putting ourselves first. And, of course, that's not the way of Jesus or the gospel.
And so wanting to be holy so people know you're holy is really a form of pride then.
That's right.
As is belittling yourself and thinking that you're being humble.
That's right. There's the two extremes. I think, to acknowledge the gifts, the blessedness that the Lord has given to us, and then, to work with the Lord and use the gifts that God has given us, to further the values of the kingdom, here in this world. I think, again, that's what the saints did.
So I guess what you're saying is that to live a holy life is to live an ordinary life extraordinarily.
Exactly, to try that to the best of our ability every day. And it's a struggle because every day there are new challenges, but we keep trying. If we fall, we get up. We don't give up. We just keep moving forward. Sometimes it's like, 2 steps backwards, 1 step forward, but we don't give up. And little by little, God's grace works in us, and when we look back at our life, we can say we've overcome with God's help a lot of big obstacles, but here we are today.
Sounds to me as though a lot of the tasks that a spiritual director has is to be an encourager to someone who is on the journey.
Exactly, and I think today people need a lot of encouragement, again, because of we're so bombarded by all kinds of distractions in our culture today.
Yeah. And the culture isn't going to tell us that we're doing well unless we're sinning.
And sometimes that's the case, sad to say. Doing things that are basically, contrary to the teachings of Jesus because they might be popular, but we know that very often a lot of the things that the culture promotes leads to disaster and sadness and depression and a lot of other, things that certainly don't enhance who we are as God's consecrated sons and daughters in baptism.
Now, you used the word consecrated there. Now, we talked earlier about consecrated lives, so are you telling me that even a lay person is supposed to be leading a consecrated life in the broadest sense of the word?
Well, in the sense that when we're baptized, we're anointed with chrism, and that's the oil of consecration. Basically, we become, temples of the Holy Spirit, temples of the presence of God. And again, that's the reason why we need to respect our bodies and take care of them, because God dwells in us. In that sense, we are consecrated.
That sounds to me as though it's a pretty heavy responsibility to be a Christian.
It is. It's not easy to be a Christian, and I think we all know in today's world it's very difficult because we have to take some tough stands. But like the Lord says, if you want to be my disciple, you got to take up your cross. And I think the cross today is very often, speaking the truth and living the truth when people don't always want to hear it.
Well, at one time you told me that sometimes taking up the cross is to take up your daily life with all the temptations that you face, that the temptations themselves are sometimes the cross. That's
right. That's correct. It depends upon different people, different situations in their lives.
Now, when someone goes to confession to you, your penance is very often quite different from anything I had experienced before I went to confession to you. Would you like to talk a little bit about what your penances are?
Very often I'll give a little printed prayer that I have learned or have read from the lives of the saints. Some maybe a little saying, some a little expression that they have written out because it's been very motivational in their own lives and can be motivational in our lives. And I think basically the penances that I try to give are to encourage people just to keep praying and looking for insights into God's love that's always, close to us.
So if you're wanting to find a confessor that's not going to assign you 4 rosaries to say for penance every time you go to confession, Father Charlie's your man.
I've never given 4 rosaries to anyone.
But sometimes it feels as though when you go to confession that you're not always understood, and it's not encouraging when you go to. But that, thank God, that is changing quite a bit in our culture today.
And I personally, from reading the Gospels more and more and meditating on them and praying through them, I don't think that, God's forgiveness is something very complicated. I think if God knows we're sorry in our hearts, God wants to forgive us and, so to speak, give us a big hug and send us on our way.
And I'm assuming, too, that when someone goes to confession, that can be an opportunity for a minute or two of spiritual direction from the confessor.
And sometimes, yes. Sometimes that's the case, yes.
And so take advantage of that. If someone's listening and saying, well, I don't really know whether I need spiritual direction or not, how am I supposed to know whether I need spiritual direction, or what would be the benefit to me? How would you answer that?
I would probably say, well, where are you at on your spiritual journey? Are you satisfied? Would you like maybe to get some insights? Would you like a few suggestions, or maybe are there some things you'd like to learn about that maybe you don't really practice right now, as far as trying, to say, deepen your relationship with the Lord. And if you're open to these suggestions or these ideas, then maybe you could try spiritual direction. Not everybody is cut out for it, or not everybody wants it, and certainly that's okay, because it has to be, I think, sought freely.
So what you're saying is someone has some kind of a stirring in their soul that something's missing and doesn't really know where to look.
Right.
And
when you think about the millions of Catholics around the world at the present time and in the past who never had spiritual direction in the strict sense of the word, they definitely lived holy lives, and I'm certain that many of them in the past are now with God in heaven. Again, just because they shared their faith with one another.
Well, let's say that someone's listening to this program today who isn't Catholic. Would they be? Would you be available to them to give them some kind of spiritual direction, or is it something that you do just for Catholics or people that are in RCIA?
I think all of them are welcome if they're trying to develop their relationship with the Lord. I can tell you that I'm not going to tell you where, but in the past, I did have a Protestant minister, a Methodist minister, who came to me for spiritual direction, and it was enlightening for me to hear about this person's spiritual journey, and I think I learned a lot too, and I believe this person did. What I did is I told this particular person to take the music of the Wesley brothers, because the Wesley brothers who founded the Methodists, they were great musicians, and they left some beautiful hymns. They said just meditate upon those hymns and use it as a way of getting closer to the Lord.
And some of those hymns are in a number of the songbooks that we have in our Catholic churches.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So
I think in many of the hymn books of the different Protestant groups, like the Lutheran hymns, many of them are they're beautiful, as well as some of the other denominations. And there's a wealth of information there that could be used to inspire people just to deepen their love for the Lord.
So what would be the process if someone was interested in spiritual direction and wanted to see if they could have you talk to them a time or two about what's going on in their lives?
Well, for example, at St. Mary's in College Station, there's a whole list of people who do spiritual direction, and anybody is free to call in there or to go to the receptionist desk at the Catholic Center and just basically to sign up for a 30-minute slot whenever the person is available to do spiritual direction.
And those slots are generally full except in the summertime.
Sometimes there are like during the holidays, or sometimes you can plan a couple weeks in advance and get a time.
Yeah. So we're getting close to the end of our time here together. We got about another minute. What would you like to say in general to somebody that's listening to this that is still kind of unconvinced, or what would you say to them to encourage them to seek spiritual direction?
I would just basically say, the Lord constantly calls us through grace to deepen our relationship with Him. And, we want to try to just get some little hints or suggestions to sort of nudge ourselves forward just a little bit. Maybe spiritual direction would be a way to say, make that happen.
And if you are wanting to get into spiritual direction with Father Charlie, he's here on Mondays. Generally from 8 to 3 for spiritual direction, and then was 3:30 to 5 for confessions.
3 to 5:15.
3 to 5:15. So there are plenty of opportunities to have a conversation with Father Charlie and to learn more from him, from his years of wisdom. Father Charlie, we thank you so much for being with us today. It's been very beneficial to me, and I hope it's been beneficial to our listeners. So hope you have a great day, and everything goes well for you, and that you come back soon.
Yes, and thank you, and God bless everybody up in Aggie Land.
And this is Gene Wilhelm, and this has been Red Sea Roundup. And remember, when choosing between the values of the world and the values of heaven, always round up.